today we're going to finish the butterfly quilt. Welcome to Quilted Tales, where I quilt and do strange stories just because I guess one hobby just wasn't enough for me. I cannot believe this quilt is almost finished. I still got a little quilting to do, figure out the border, put on the binding, and wash and dry, and see what that quilt looks like complete. So let's get started. We have a quilt to finish. Before I can finish these last butterfly blocks, I need to make my quilting lines. Taking a few minutes to do this now saves me a lot of frustration later. I've got about 3.5 blocks left and the border. As I'm quilting these last blocks, I keep thinking about how much I've learned since my first quilt. This is probably the best quilting I've ever done so far, not because it's perfect, just because I can see the progress that I've made. And that's one of the things I love about quilting. Every quilt teaches you something. Since we're finishing the butterfly quilt, you know I had to look up how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. The process is a lot stranger than I realized. A caterpillar spends most of its life just eating, and then it goes into a cocoon, but inside that cocoon, its body breaks down, reorganizes, and emerges as a beautiful butterfly. It's hard to believe something so beautiful starts out looking completely different. The butterfly blocks are done. Now comes the part where I change my mind 6 times before making a decision. And if you've ever made a quilt, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I usually have one idea, and then another idea, and then 3 more ideas. And eventually, I just have to pick one and go with it. Once I'd started quilting the border, I knew I'd made the right choice. And with the quilting finished, it was time for the part that always feels a little strange. Trimming the quilt. You spend all that time making a quilt, and then suddenly you're cutting into it again. It feels wrong every single time, but once everything is squared up and cleaned up, it's ready for the next step. And a few quilts ago, I never would have believed I'd say this. Binding used to be my least favorite part. It felt like it took forever, and now actually it's one of my favorite parts of making a quilt. Maybe it's because it's the point where all the big decisions are already behind me. Now, I just get to finish the quilt. Once the binding is cut, pressed, and ready to go, this is usually the point where I start getting very impatient because I just want to see what the quilt looks like. I already know what it's going to look like, but I just got to finish and get it there. After weeks of cutting, sewing, quilting, trimming, and binding, the last stitches are finally going to go in the quilt. But before I call this quilt finished, there's one more thing you need to do. One of my favorite parts of the process is seeing a quilt after it's been washed and dried. Everything starts to soften up, the quilting stands out more, and all those little crinkles start to appear. It's the same quilt, but somehow it always feels a little different when it comes out of the dryer. Okay, now it's ready. Let's see how it turned out. The butterfly quilt is officially finished. I'm really proud of this one. A few weeks ago, it was just fabric on my ironing board, and now it's a quilt. It's hard to believe something so beautiful starts out looking completely different. Thanks for spending some time with me today. This quilt might be finished, but the next project is already waiting. I can't wait to get started and show you what's next. See you soon. Happy quilting!